I'm Rob Trice. I started the Mixing Bowl and Better Food Ventures. I'm based in Silicon Valley, and I want to talk to you about a couple of the things that I'm seeing as trends in the innovation landscape from Silicon Valley and see how they apply to food and agriculture. The first one is cheaper and faster disruptive innovation. Many of you probably have heard of Clayton Christensen, and back in 1995, he wrote a book called Disruptive Innovation. And what he talked about is that you may have something, let's take books as an example. We all used to go to bookstores, and we enjoy going to bookstores. And then there's this new company, let's call it Amazon, that steps in, and they come out with this new way of ordering books, which is via the internet, and then reading them on a digital screen. And nobody's actually ever asked for that before. But this new company comes in and they introduce a new product or service that's not profitable and not in demand. But what they do is they have a new lower cost structure, and they keep iterating on that. And gradually what happens is they go and they replace the incumbents, and they take over the bookstore market. The whole message, my whole takeaway is, from the time that Clayton Christensen wrote this book in 1995 to now, there are new tools that are enabling the rate of disruption to occur faster and faster. We have these democratized and consumerized tools related to global communications. Anything is a cloud-based service, open source, do it yourself, social marketing, online sales platforms, online and global recruiting. There's a VC in Silicon Valley, Ben Horowitz, who wrote, even back in 2011, he said the cost of running a web startup has dropped by 100x in the last 11 years. I'm guessing it's even more, even since he said that in 2011. The next thing I want to do, so this is my only takeaway from this, is that from 1995 to 2017, that rate of disruption is occurring faster and faster. I'm going to do exactly what they tell you not to do in a public speaking class. I want to read from this chart because I think it's really important. This is a gentleman also in Silicon Valley, and he talks about this concept of exponential innovation. What he says is, in a world where so many people have access to education and cheap tools of innovation, innovation from the bottom up tends to be chaotic but smart. Innovation from the top down tends to be orderly but dumb. The sweet spot for innovation today is moving down closer to the people, because all the people together are smarter than anyone alone, and all the people have the tools to invest and collaborate. I think this is really important. We're seeing a new way of innovation, a new explosion of innovation globally. I believe that this era of continuous disruption is giving rise to a new era of continuous volatility. And there's a US military term called VUCA that I think describes today's business environment. VUCA is where you assume in your operating environment that you will have volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You assume that from day one. And the question is, if you live in a VUCA world, how do you respond to that? You accept complexity and disorder in your systems. You distribute decision-making, risk-taking, and reward sharing. You see that small can be more efficient than large because large can become brittle. And you learn from trial and error where you have small failure costs, but the potential of a win is really big. So if I kind of look around Silicon Valley right now, I see two kind of actors. I see hummingbirds and brontosauruses. And the hummingbird is like a startup. It's small, it's really fast, it tries to find food to stay alive. It has a high mortality rate in the first year. The average lifespan is only 3 to 5 years, but can grow pretty big and still fly pretty fast. So this is actually the Peruvian hummingbird that grows to be 23 centimeters long. On the right are the brontosauruses. These are the big companies. They got a big body, a small brain. They sit in the swamp, they chew grass all day. And if they don't, they can live to be 100, but if they don't adapt to their environment, they die off. So as I look at these two kind of companies, I look at the organizational principles that guide those companies. And I see a big difference right now. What I'm seeing is the rise of the abundance thinkers and the decline of the scarcity thinkers. And the guy in the upper left here who's not smiling is Alfred Marshall. And Alfred Marshall wrote this law of diminishing returns. He said the best way to maximize return is through hierarchy, planning, control, and standard product optimization. Then the guy on the right is Brian Arthur. He's a happy Californian, and he's smiling, and he's got a good suntan. And he wrote this law of increasing returns, which is that you maximize return through speed and adaptations and links and ecologies, or networks as he calls them, for a network effect. So what this, for me, summarizes the scarcity mentality versus the abundance mentality. So what does all this mean for food and agriculture? I actually don't like talking about feeding 9 billion people by 2050. We should be asking ourselves also, how might we increase yields and soil fertility? How might we make farmers our equity partners? How might we use food to unlock human potential? It's a much deeper challenge than just asking how we're going to feed X number of people by X number of years. And specifically for me, I want to find the change makers who are redoing food in 2017. I want to find the people that are using information technology to move us from a macro to a micro food system. Meaning, I want to find the people that can take us from this high volume, commoditized industrial food system that we've had and make it more precise, personalized, agile, and lean. And I also want to find the people that can take something micro and make it macro. So if there is something like plant-based foods, we can now look at these democratized technologies to make, move, process, and market food and allow rapid scaling of opportunities. I do want to have a cautionary note. As I said, I come from mobile, internet, and telecom, and tweeting and eating are not the same. For 3 basic reasons. One is seeds and seasons. There are laws of nature and ethics that need to be abided by. There's a reason that we have corn that takes 90 or 100 days to grow, 50 or 80 days to grow a carrot. On the bottom left here, you can see a picture of what I'll call a normal 1950s chicken, and then one that has actually been genetically modified. There's a limitation to how big that chicken can grow before you start running into ethical issues related to that chicken and its ability to survive. Safety, I don't think I need to talk too much about that here, but even in the US, we have 48 million people who get sick every year from food safety. 128,000 people get hospitalized and 3,000 die. We obviously have our own Chipotle issues. And the other thing is just a cautionary warning about scaling. Scaling in food and agriculture is hard. And the fundamental reason is that throughout the value chain, there are still antiquated parts that need to be improved or disrupted. My hope is, of course, that that's going to happen through information technology. Now, what are the keys to leveraging these innovations for food and agriculture? I think the first thing is you need to embrace constant change, the new normal. Second is build systems, processes, teams, and goals aligned with agility and abundance thinking. Third is leverage the democratized technology to create collaborative innovation ecosystems and scale solutions quickly. And lastly, continuously ask yourself whether we're solving for the right challenges in food and agriculture. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much.